made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channel and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Invisired. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 360 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your co-host, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Mark Murdock, and if you want to learn to become a chiropractor's most trusted advisor, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. This is a big one, 360. And we got Mark Murdock coming in from the Dallas area, and my co-host Luke Millette coming in from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and myself, Jim Chester, your host. I'm out here in Grand Junction, Colorado. And before we get into 360, just want to set some ground rules for you guys and tell you guys why we do what we do. And one of the most important things that we do is we protect free speech. And that's why we run the show the way we do. And we also protect the sacred trust. If you don't know what that is, go and do a search for that on your favorite browser. And we also support subluxation-based chiropractors, the vernacular, the lexicon of innate intelligence and universal intelligence that connects man to physical, to man to spiritual through the chiropractic adjustment. And with that being said, just want to give a warm welcome to our guest, Mark Murdock. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jim.
Yeah, man, I am pumped. I got a chance to read through your bio. I got a chance to meet you down in Dallas and saw what type of character you were. And I was like, you know what? This guy's a chiropractic warrior. And I know that you've been doing a lot in the natural health world and come from, collegiate basketball coach world. And I know that there's going to be some awesome stuff we're going to talk about today. So
for sure,
let's just jump right into this one.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share with our audience, and just to be clear, there's going to be a lot of chiropractors that will listen to this. There's going to be a lot of chiropractic patients that will listen to this, chiropractic advocates, your friends, your families, your colleagues, the guys you played basketball with, are the guys that you coached in basketball. They're all going to listen to this. So just to let you know, there's going to be a big audience for your message today. So
awesome.
The main driver here is chiropractic. But we will talk about the company that you're representing today, Aspen Laser and the TheraLight. So we'll jump a little bit onto that too. But your chiropractic story, how did you get into this beautiful profession?
So before I became a basketball coach, I did a lot of athletic ability, played a lot of sports, and started seeking chiropractic in my early 20s for just back issues mostly. And I think 80% of Americans over the age of 30 have consistent low back pain. And I'd like to see that stat of what over the age of 20, because I think it's higher than we used to. And probably with neck issues and cell phones now, it's even higher. But so that's kind of how I got into chiropractic. And then at the end, I'm going to tell you a miracle chiropractic story, but that's how I got into it through personal use.
That's cool, man. And do you feel like chiropractic helped you with your athletic performance?
Tons. Absolutely. I mean, there's so many things that especially young athletes today just overlook. Mobility, range of motion. Mobility and range of motion is really the key to strength. People say, well, I plateaued in my strength. Well, I'll tell you what, you want to boost that, unlock the mobility of that joint, and then watch your strength really, really go up. So I just think it's underutilized. I think if there's a professional athlete today that doesn't almost travel with his own chiropractor because they can afford it, travel with their own myofascial relief specialist, and that can be the same person, and they're a professional athlete, they're crazy, because they should be worked on every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Mark, you're not a DC, so maybe
Nope.
You can go into a little bit about what makes you unique in the chiropractic world, or what are some services and products you have that help chiropractors?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. Number one, I mean, how many people in the chiropractic world were a college coach for 17 years? That's pretty unique. Coaching is the ultimate meritocracy. If you don't get results, you don't keep your job. And that's why I'm drawn to chiropractic. Chiropractic versus Western medicine. Chiropractic is a meritocracy, results driven, and Western based medicine is politics and money driven. So they're far ends of the spectrum. Chiropractic is wellness that works, and medicine is a coin flip. It can be. You have the healthy nutrition on the chiropractic side with the outdated food pyramid on the Western medicine side, which is should be flipped upside down. So it's just very different. Very different. You have things that get results versus a lot of medical treatments that actually impede the body's own healing process. So those are things why I'm drawn to chiropractic. I think another thing that makes me unique is I'm a big tool guy. Chiropractors are great. They're magicians with these, right? But as chiropractors age and get further along in their practice, what starts to wear out? Their own hands, their own wrists, their own elbows, their own shoulders, their own back. And their chiropractor's like, your chiropractor's out today because he's seeing his chiropractor, right? So their bodies wear out. So I think some of the older chiropractors or the more forward-thinking ones are now thinking, okay, what tools can I use that don't involve my time and my hands that can get me results like I can get with my own hands or better, or that can enhance what I'm doing with my own hands, and it can be a revenue stream that can go on and on and on when I'm not in the office or when I retire. Right? Can I own my practice and run my practice after I stop using my own hands? So I think that kind of makes me a little unique in chiropractors, but I don't think it's as unique as it used to be. And Jim will tell you, I mean, we see chiropractors every day that, yes, they adjust, and yes, they do myofascial, and yes, they use laser, and yes, they use whole body light beds, and yes, they use PMF, and they're just expanding more and more, because as many things as we can throw at a problem, the better the result.
Well, I was with a guy named Kyle Zagrodsky this past week, and one of the things I realized is he even told me, and we were discussing this, chiropractic is the ultimate biohack. And they were the biohackers before the biohack thing became a thing.
Yep.
And now what chiropractic, you're absolutely right too. I want to ask you, how many times have you been at a like a chiropractic event or seminar, and a chiropractor comes up to you and they're like, hey man, could you hit me with that laser on my wrist? Because I got this thing going on where I have to modify the way that I adjust, or, hey man, I got this thing going on and like right here, and every time I do a side posture, I feel this part of my shoulder start to separate, and it just doesn't feel good. And you start doing 1 to 2 laser treatments on them, see how they respond to that. I mean, heal the healer, right?
Yeah. People are stunned. I mean, when I tell them, and I'll make a claim, I'll go to any chiropractor in the country and do a full free demo day for them. I'll bring a laser in, treat their staff, treat as many patients as you want to bring in. And I'll give them this guarantee: 99.9% of the time, I can take that chiropractor, that staff, or that patient to a 0 or 1 in pain inside of 10 minutes. The only time this laser will not work is if there's a pinched nerve. Until that thing gets unpinched, I can't stop it from firing. But everything else, I can shut it down pretty quick with this laser. It's literally that powerful. And people have this amazed result. You saw it, man. You're like, I've been dealing with this for 2 years. It's chronic. If you can just knock the edge off it, let's see and I'll take them to a 0, and they're like, what did you do to me? Where did it go? So the question we always ask is, have you ever done anything that got you that much relief that fast? And the answer 99.9% of the time is no, I've never done anything like that. I'm like, okay, what about morphine? I'm like, morphine doesn't work this fast. So it's pretty powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I went and saw you. I was down there in Dallas with you at the Breakthrough Coaching Weekend, and I've been doing these hangs where I'm on a bar hanging for a minute, and I was getting these like crazy, like compression headaches. And I told you, you're like, hey man, if you come down here, tell me if there's anything bothering you. And I'm like, I'm fine, dude. And you're like, well, tell me if there's anything going on. And I had to like think about it. And I'm like, well, I do this thing where I hang on this bar and I get this like compression headache. Can you help with that? And you're like, let's see. So actually the next day I went down to the gym at the Gaylord and I hung from the bar and I didn't have it. Yep. So pretty amazing, pretty impressive what you're able to accomplish with that. Let me ask you about these demo days you do a little bit more. Do you feel like when you have boots on the ground, because you've had past experience as being a coach, you can really work with the team at that office and that chiropractor a lot better to get them to start working better as a unit?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, I love what I do other than work for Aspen is I do my own consulting. So I go into a lot of practices and kind of help them get off the ground, help them solve problems. I'll evaluate their finances, their books, their staff, their training. I'll rewrite training manuals. I'll train their staff. We'll talk about marketing, really everything that focuses inside their own walls. What I don't deal with is outside the walls, SEO, SEM. That's not my niche. Mine is getting a team to in a center, an office to run at maximum capability.
Super cool.
So what are some of your favorite ways to make sales? What are some of your favorite marketing techniques?
This should be good.
Yeah, anything ever written by Jay Abraham. Strategy of Preeminence by Jay Abraham. And it's very simple. It basically says you always put the customer needs above your own. You always put the customer's wallet above your own. The customer always comes first. The patient always comes first. And that's basically, it sounds really, really simple to do, but the strategy of preeminence is they have to think of you as their most trusted advisor. And if you listen to what Jay says, everything comes back to that. If you give me sound advice that works, then not only can I trust you for that, I can probably trust you for other things. And some of your DCs that are watching this will know that when they've gotten a good results for their patient, they'll start asking them questions about parenting, about relationships, about buying a car, right? Because when you become the strategy pyramid says, when you become someone's most trusted advisor in one area, that expands to other areas. They begin to trust you about everything, right? So that's really what it comes down to. And if you look at the core of the strategy preeminence, it always comes back to referrals. So what we know from studies is referrals is the fastest way to grow any business in the world, right? It's also the cheapest way. When you compare it towards all other marketing activities, referrals are the cheapest. It also has the highest rate of conversions. When somebody comes in the door off a referral from a trusted client, they convert at a higher rate. They purchase at a higher rate versus all other marketing activities. And it also engenders the highest lifetime value of a client. What that client will spend over their lifetime in your chiropractic office comes from referral patients always. So when we look at all that, the strategy, experiments, and referrals, why are 99% of businesses in this country not spending a dime on referrals? They're doing traditional old style marketing, and there's a place for that. There's a place for SEO and SEM and magazine ads and TV and radio. There's a place for all of that. But referrals, we know, are the cheapest, fastest, most cost effective, and most financially beneficial to our business. Why aren't we spending more time on referrals? So that's what I say is everything Jay Abraham's ever said or written, do that.
So let me layer something up there for you. So you say referrals. How important do you think reviews are as well as referrals?
Extremely. When referrals first started, they were mostly organic, and now you've got this blend of some organic and some paid. And if you pay enough, then they'll boost your referrals. So you've got this mismatch that, I don't know, people you guys' age trust them more than people my age because I'm old and I'm cynical. But referrals are big. I would rather have than an online referral. I would rather get a result for a patient and have them go off on their own organically without me asking and get them such a result that they have to rave about it to people they know. That's the best referral. Typed referrals, online referrals, all great, but nothing carries weight more than somebody who hasn't been motivated, who hasn't been paid to do referral, hasn't been asked to do referral, but you overwhelm them so much with a response and the result that they go and tell their golf buddies or their teammates at work or their spouse or their kids or their parents, right? Things that I've done in my own health and wellness in the past, without being asked, I become a personal evangelist for those things. And I'm highly motivated to tell everybody I know about it, right? That's just because when you get a result that is phenomenal, you'll tell other people about it. So referrals are my number one thing, man. But you got to get people a result.
And on the topic of health and wellness, besides getting adjusted, what are some other ways that you like to keep healthy and fit?
I lay in a whole body light bed twice a week, 15 minutes, 2 15-minute naps twice a week. That's my main thing. I'm fully ketogenic. I don't care if you're ketogenic or vegetarian. I think keto folks and vegetarians can agree on one thing, that processed food is death. So when you go in the grocery store, I shop the left wall, the back wall, and the right wall, and then I leave. I don't walk down the aisle because death resides in the aisles. I don't eat any processed food. Something I did kind of a switch on that 2 years ago when kind of COVID broke out and you had to work out at home. I went to OMAD, 1 meal a day. So not only am I fully ketogenic, I only eat every 24 hours. So I 23-hour fast every day. That's been pretty big. And then as I get older, mobility, man, mobility. If you do not use it, you will lose it. You know, when we hit the age of 40, we lose the ability to close our eye and stand on one foot. That proprioception goes away. So you have to train for those things or you're going to lose them.
It was funny. We were at that event together and we were doing the exact same thing.
The whole room was falling. It's easier for you than it is for me because you're a lot younger than I am. You get that advantage.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how people are carrying on. But yeah, you know, you said processed food is death, and I think a lot of times people just need a refresher sometimes on these strategies of finding higher health. Let's talk more about like the mindset. What are you doing to keep your mind sharp?
You know, I'm active in my local church spiritually. I know where I'm at. I'm grounded. I've been that way since I was about 6 years old. And I stay involved in prayer and scripture daily, and not just on my own, but as a family and corporately in worship. I read a lot. You're right. Readers are leaders. I read everything I get my hands on. And then I never loan out a book because I highlight and make notes in books. And I go back and reread those books multiple times. I've read Good to Great 5 times, and I've made notes in it every time. And I'll never loan I'll buy somebody a copy, but you're not getting mine because I know people don't return books, and I lose a lot of notes. So I love to read. I'm a voracious reader, and not just on business. I still go to high school basketball practices and college practices and take notes. I'll probably never coach again, but I want to learn. Right. Dean Smith, after he retired, would go to junior high, his grandson's junior high basketball practices, and would sit up there in the stands and take notes. And the coach came up and said, "Coach Smith, what can I teach you?" He goes, "I'm always learning." So I just want to keep learning.
That's cool. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of value, and no matter what age you're in, is just continue being the student and continue being a vessel of knowledge. And you're right, man. If you have good spiritual resonance, that carries with you long term, and it helps more people around you. It's like the silent part of our being, and when people are around us, they get a chance to just be around somebody that has a deep rooted foundation of belief. When somebody has a deep rooted foundation of belief, like you said, when they find something that's good for them, they become evangelists. They become the apologist. They become the megaphone for something like what Luke and I have done for chiropractic.
Yeah.
We had a chance to become, the voice for the future of this message because no one else was doing it.
Yep.
And when I saw that this was such a vacancy in the profession, I said, I believe in this. I know it works. And why isn't anybody else banging the drum and perpetuating the future of chiropractic with a positive message consistently?
Yeah.
And do the work. And, I think it's important that people actually they believe in something. So I think that's really important. And I do think it's cool that Dean Smith would go out and take notes because I think he's probably one of the most legendary college basketball coaches of our time.
Yeah.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Invisired. Let's hustle.
So what are some of your favorite ways to stay connected to your community and maybe also your clients?
It's kind of a dual-edged sword. Church, I already mentioned. I play golf probably about 3 times a week. So I've got a group of guys I play golf with, but I really like to play. I'd rather play with somebody I've never met before. So I go out to the golf course a lot of times with no tee time and jump in as a single with a group of 3 guys I've never met. I love doing. I don't do that for work. I don't do that to try and sell them something. I do it because I just like to meet new people and hear different perspectives and different walks of life. And that's one of the things I miss about coaching. Is coaching is the perfect diverse world. You have people from all kinds of racial, socioeconomic backgrounds, European. I had players from all countries, right? All over the world, all different cities. Kids that were raised with silver spoons and kids that were raised with nothing. And that is a perfect blend of what the real world looks like. And I think travel is another one. Man, if you've never been outside this country, you need to go, and you need to go regularly and really expand on really how the rest of the world lives. I think Americans have no concept of how the rest of the world lives, and that the poorest of our poor in this country are wealthy when compared to third world. I mean, absolute wealth. So I just think travel is a big one. Again, church, golf. I spend a lot of time in the gym, so I meet people there. It's an interesting place. You know, just people watch. But yeah, and then I live out in the country though. I live out in the middle of nowhere. I got, my family has 10 acres out here, and we're an hour outside of Dallas. So I'm not an isolationist, but I do like my privacy, and I like to be away from the hustle and bustle. But you still got to stay connected.
Yeah, that's, I love this episode. I think that there's a lot of value in just talking about, the day-to-day life of what gets us going and how we stay motivated and how we dial into our local network and how we, build our communities. I love that question when we ask the chiropractors, because they're like, oh, we do dinner talks, we do lunch talks, we go out to events and meet people. We do, your young professionals groups. We do your, BNI chapters and, different types of networking stuff. And I also think, why not make friends on the golf course? And I think that that's a brilliant thing. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to us are jealous that you get to golf 3 times a week.
Yeah, well, it's one of the deals of being self-employed. The boss is pretty nice sometimes.
Yeah, one of our business partners, Dr. Gareth, he'd be envious. I'm sure if I told him that my buddy Mark golfs 3 times a week, he'd probably want to connect with you.
Yeah, 3 is a slow week too. Sometimes I'll hit it 6 times.
Oh boy.
So where do you see the chiropractic profession going in the next 20 years or so?
I have hope. I think if anybody is going to be the tip of the spear to turn us away from failed Western medicine, it's got to be chiropractors. There's nobody else. There's nobody else that has the power that the chiropractic world has. There's nobody else that has the credibility. There's nobody else that has the sheer volume and numbers. There's nobody else that has the public trust, and there's nobody that get results like chiropractors. So my hope is that more people see their chiropractors on a regular basis than see their traditional Western medicine doctors. And I want to make a caveat. I'm not totally down on Western medicine. I have doctors. I have an orthopedic that I see, and they've been very good. But I want Western medicine guys that haven't been trained like everybody else has been trained. They're way outside the box. They're entrepreneurial, and they think outside the box rather than, the food pyramid and, cut, burn, or poison. So again, my hope is that chiropractors can turn the tide. And I think we're at a really interesting point where people have not trusted Western medicine much for a long time. And what we've seen in the last 2 years, now they don't trust that at all, because we're seeing stuff shoved down our throats that we can say, wait a minute, you want me to follow science? That's not even your own science. I'm reading medical studies, and that doesn't agree with what you're telling me to do. And I see the dollar signs behind this. I'm backing away from that. So I think we're right for the chiropractic profession to be people's number one medical source. And I think it should be. Why? Because it's a meritocracy. If your chiropractor doesn't get you results, you just don't go. And chiropractors get results. So, I mean, I'm hopeful that they'll turn it and it'll be people's number, because it's preventative care. It's not sick care. It's preventative care. If we do preventative care, people say, oh, that's so expensive. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than sick care. I'll promise you that.
The thing I love about what you're saying is there's a saying that you either invest in your health now or you'll pay for sickness later. And I really believe that people are geared right now towards least invasive. And I think people want to have a more holistic solution and they want to have healthier futures. And the problem is most people are so darn confused with what the media tells them, what the commercial breaks are on the television tell them. They're so confused with um, how much information that they get that they don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
And they don't know what the right answers are. And it's an easy way to, like I said earlier on another show, is a confused buyer doesn't buy.
That's right.
But somebody that gets, in chemistry, they call it titration. When you have an effect where you drop in clear liquid to another liquid for so long until it becomes a different element and it changes colors.
Yep.
That's what happens, I believe, with the messaging around Western strategy. Is that they titrate people with this concept of the cut, drug, poison out stuff, and they don't know what it is to actually find a wellness practitioner.
Yeah.
They don't know how to find somebody that practices functional medicine, and they wouldn't know what a laser could do for them. They don't know what most people would have no idea that a laser would even be able to help them.
Yeah. And then people don't know, the easiest is go to PubMed, type in any technology or any, medical device or technique and a disease, and read for yourself what the results are. Don't listen. You don't have to listen to your doctor or even your chiropractor. Double check what your chiropractor tells you with PubMed and go and look at the studies. If you're about to have hip replacement and you can't know whether you're doing anterior or posterior, go look at the studies. Don't listen to what the doc says, what the surgeon says. Go look at the studies and decide for yourself. So, in our world, PubMed is still the gateway to find out for yourself. Now, hopefully that won't be shut down like a lot of other things are, but we can find out the answers if you spend a little bit of time.
So who are some people that have inspired you to be who you are today? Who are some people that you've looked up to on your path?
Jesus, number one, because nobody's ever died for me before. So that's a pretty big deal. John Wooden, the greatest coach of all time. And John Wooden, not because that he won, because he never focused on winning. He focused on process. And when he focused on process, he became the winningest coach of all time. He literally, from day one, every year, showed his players how to put their socks and shoes on and lace up their sneakers. That's how detailed and process-driven he was. Socks with no wrinkles so you don't get blisters on your first week of practice. Shoes tight, all these little basic things. And he always focused on process all the way along the way. And then tied with him is Marcus Lemonis, because his whole thing is people plus process equals profit. He never focuses on the end result. He always focuses on the people and the process. And if you have good people and a great process, the profit takes care of itself. I'm a process guy. I coaching, I didn't talk about winning. I talked about how many offensive rebounds we got to get, how many turnovers we got to force, how many times we got to take a charge, what a shooting percentage has to be. We never talked about we want to win this game, because you can't control that. There's too many factors that you can't control that determines who wins a game. So you just focus on the process. Same thing in chiropractic. You got to focus on the process. People come in and you get one adjustment and they say, I'm not better. Well, it's a process. It's not an end. It's not a destination. We're going to get you there eventually, but you've got to follow the process. And you've got to do other things other than get adjusted, right? Nutrition. I feel like every chiropractor or wellness practice in the world should have a big sign over the front door. It says, if you're not serious about nutrition, don't waste your time walking through these doors. Because your chiropractor can adjust you. And if you're 350 pounds and you're 5'11", that adjustment's going to hold for maybe 4 seconds till you hit the front door. And you're going to fight what he does for you every day if your nutrition's not serious. And other things too, laser, light beds, every these other things. But it's holistic and it's got to be focused on all that. So I'm a process guy. That's why my heroes are all process guys.
That's really cool. I'm inspired by that. I love that you shared that the foundation of this is just fundamentals, and teach people how to do things that are just rudimentary, that they might not think are a big deal, but that's why you win championships.
Everything's a big deal.
You do the small things the right way from day one. Sure. And by, the end of the season, nobody got a blister.
Pretty big deal if you make a living with your feet.
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe as we close out, you can share with us maybe one of your biggest testimonials that you've had with some of your products.
Oh, wow. Jim was at the booth at the last Breakthrough Coaching, a lady who had 5 foot surgeries, been in chronic pain for 5 years. I said, what is your pain? How does it fluctuate? She goes, well, it's never below a 5. It's always at a 5. It can get worse, but it's always at a 5. We did a treatment on her for 5 minutes. She said, you changed my life. She starts tearing up like big time. And guess what? Her husband's a chiropractor. So it was a pretty major deal, but that's not an isolated incident. It happens time after time after time. When you get somebody out of pain, and again, it's not just a short-term deal. We're actually starting to regenerate that tissue with light therapy. There's a lot that goes into it, but that's a pretty big deal. And then my own chiropractic kind of miracle story is real quickly. When I was about 28, I was seeing a chiropractor, and my son was 2 to 3 years old. My oldest, who's now 27, was 2 to 3 years old. And I was a young coach, didn't have insurance because junior college assistant coaches don't get insurance and you're not even making full salary. But he had constant ear infections from the time he was born. So we were going to have to pay $4,000 to have tubes put in his ears because we'd run the route on amoxicillin and immune system was shot and couldn't do any more antibiotics. And I was getting adjusted. My chiropractor did the same. How's the family? And I said, we're okay. She said, well, what's going on? I said, well, my son, he's 3. We're gonna have to put tubes in his ears because he's constantly getting ear infections. They've never stopped since he was, a baby, ever since he was born. And she said, I tell you what, why don't you bring him in? I said, I don't think I want you cranking on my son's neck. He's 3. And she goes, no. Bring him in. I'll feel back there. Sometimes just in the birthing process or learning to walk, those jolts to their head or just coming through the birth canal can be pretty severe, and they can get unbalanced here in their cervical, and it will cause the ears not to drain. And if we can just look at it, I'll use an activator. If it's out, if there's anything you're uncomfortable with, I won't do it. So I said, okay. So I brought him in next day. She takes off her coat. She just sits on the floor and plays with him for a little bit. And as she's playing with him, she reaches back. She feels his neck for a little bit. She said, he's way out of whack. I can do this little spring-loaded device. I didn't know what it was at the time. Now I do. And she said, he won't feel anything. I'll just pop it in place. Let's see what happens. So I said, okay. And she did it. He just kind of turned and looked and then kept playing. And she said, go ahead and take him to his pre-op appointment. And it was 4 days later. We took him to his pre-op appointment. Doc looked in his ear, looked in his other ear, looked at them both again and went, he's completely clear. Do you still want to do the surgery? And we said, no, let's wait and see what happens. He never had another ear infection. My doc charged me $0 to see my son. I was already a fan of chiropractic. I didn't know much about it. I just knew it worked for my back. I became an evangelist for chiropractors after that. I will probably tell you there's 4 or 5 people in my life since then whose kids have avoided the same tubes in the ear surgery by me pressing or pushing on them to take their kid to a chiropractor and get their neck adjusted. And it's worked.
Powerful.
Awesome.
Huge.
Well, Mark, I want to thank you for being our guest today. This has been a very insightful episode. It's always fun to get non-chiropractors on here from time to time. And I'm sure Jim enjoyed this episode as well.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
And if people want to see more about what you're up to, what are some web resources we can send them to?
Aspen Lasers, that's plural, aspenlasers.com is one. And then Theralite, all one word, THERALIGHT.com. And then if they want to know a little bit more about me personally, my personal website is NSIA. It stands for Nancy Sam Indigo Alpha. NSIAconsulting.com, all one word.
Great, Mark. Well, I appreciate you being our guest today. And it was insightful and it was a great conversation. And now you're part of this tapestry of the Chirohustle family.
Love it.
And you are episode 360. So please share this. It'll be live on my Facebook page. And look forward to next time we get a chance to catch up with you.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. See you, Mark.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.